Hi, I'm Russ Ginsberg, host and co-founder of Eatisserie. Our guest today is Chetna Macwan, M-A-C-W-A-N, founder and owner of Spice Culture. At Spice Culture, Chetna teaches cooking classes all around New York and Philadelphia for those who want to learn to cook Indian foods. She cooks an interesting combination of authentic Indian dishes, focusing primarily on northern India, where she's from, but also fuses them with elements of cuisines of other ethnicities. She learned her craft under her late mom, as many great cooks do. Authentic Indian cooking can be very complicated. One of her main goals is to simplify Indian cooking for her students without sacrificing any of its flavor or authenticity. Chetna is an active blogger, a food photographer, and relatively new entrepreneur. Welcome, Chetna, and thanks for being here.
Thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it.
Sure. So, Chetna, what made you realize that you could actually make ethnic cooking a career, and how long ago was that?
So I've been cooking professionally about 2 or 3 years. And being an Indian myself, I usually cook a lot of the dishes at home. And then I had a lot of my friends in the area asked to come to my home and learn different dishes. And then I decided, let me try to improvise some of the recipes and try to make it easier for them. And that just caught on, and a lot of other people started requesting to come over and learn different dishes. And then I thought, hey, I think this could be marketable, and it's something new. You know, everybody loves food, and food brings people together, and this is a perfect opportunity for people to get together, learn something new, and just try a whole different type of cuisine than what they're traditionally used to. And so it's picked up, and it's been a lot of fun. I'm very, very thankful for it.
Yeah, and Indian cooking, just my own history is it was very foreign to people, maybe as recently as 10 years ago, but it's really gotten more mainstream, right?
Absolutely, absolutely.
It's getting more adventurous with their eating, and they keep pushing the envelope. So the spicier the better.
Absolutely, and I think people, like you had said, are just more willing to try something new. And just, it's more exciting as opposed to, you know, traditional cooking back in the day.
Great. So I was going to ask, what's complicated about Indian cooking? Is it sourcing the ingredients, or is it just the number of ingredients, or what in your estimation has been the difficulty for most people to cook authentically?
I think a lot of people are just not used to spices in general, or they just aren't familiar with the number of spices that are available to them. And I think when people have tried Indian food, in my experience in the past, they're a bit intimidated by the number of ingredients, and they're probably thinking, you know, we're at home with mortar and pestle and kind of, you know, grinding spices all day, and then, you know, we're in the backyard getting vegetables and things like that. I think they just, I guess, I don't know if it's just experience, they've just forgotten the accessibility here in the US. There's a lot of different markets, Asian markets, Indian markets. You know, Whole Foods is here, a lot of other stores where the ingredients are accessible. And I think once people realize that, it's really not that bad after all. And also it's, you know, I remember my mom, it would take like 3 hours to cook one dish. And we just don't have that time anymore. You know, life is happening. We all have children, we all have responsibilities. And I think at the same time, people want to have a proper meal at home for their families. And just being able to know how to make something new for their family during the weekdays, I think it's been really, really great, because it's not that intimidating after all. It is as simple as cooking a regular meal that was part of their household anyway.
Right. I guess, I mean, I don't know if your mom's generation would have had this issue, but I know since there's a lot of vegetarian dishes in Indian cuisine,
right,
that in the old days, they used to prepare the beans like the night before, if it's a bean dish.
Right.
But now they can just go to get a canned organic can of beans, and it really tastes indistinguishable.
And there's so many different kitchenware available. I mean, you have the Instapot, you have the pressure cooker, like you had mentioned earlier, you can buy canned, dried beans. You just have the right tools, or more advanced kitchen tools now, to be able to make a proper meal in half the time.
Sure. When I eat Indian cuisine, I always notice that by the end of it, even if I order it relatively mild, it's spicy by the end of the meal. You know, the first taste of it is great, and by the end of it, you're drinking a lot of water.
Right. You're wiping sweat off your forehead.
So my question is, are all the ingredients, do all of them add heat where you might get away with one type of a pepper where there might be 4 in there where you need all 4? Or can you get by with just one?
You don't need all 4. A lot of Indian cooking, it's all about flavor. And ideally, there should be a great balance between the heat and the seasoning. I mean, with any meal, you want to enjoy the flavor behind it. You're not worried about, or you shouldn't have to worry about, am I going to make it through this meal? And I think it also depends on the regions that the dishes are a part of. South Indian cooking versus North Indian cooking, the type of chili peppers, the content, some of the masalas, and the ingredients in there. That does make a big difference as far as how much heat is in it. But ideally, a person who would be able to cook properly should know. I think we're going to have just a little bit of heat, for flavor, but ideally you want to be able to taste all the vegetables and the meat, and all the different other seasonings in there. So I guess the answer to your question is no, it should not be killer hot. You should survive your meal.
It's actually a joke I make with my brother is that, and again, because Indian cuisine is relatively new to me
right.
in this country, I don't know good from bad. I just, whatever's available is what I eat. And my complaint is always that by the end of the meal, I feel it more than I taste it.
Right.
And it probably shouldn't be that way. And I make the joke with my brother that it feels like the way when I first started to cook as a 7-year-old or a 9-year-old or whatever I was, where you pour everything in the spice cabinet into the dish. And that's how I feel like a lot of the cooking is. And it's probably not the way it's supposed to be. Like less is more sometimes.
Right. I agree with you. I definitely agree with you there. And then, I'm Indian myself, and I've been to restaurants where my husband and we come out and we're like, what did we order? Like, we're wiping our noses and drinking water. And so.
Okay, so you know the difference in that it's not supposed to be that way.
It should not be. No. So, and I feel like a lot of places, unfortunately, compensate flavor with the heat,
Yeah. And it even just makes me wonder, just because everything I see in Indian cooking and also like in Mexican cooking too, I always compare the two because they both are very heat,
oh, yes, definitely.
hot kind of cuisines. What do people do, like, if they just have a stomach ache or if they're just not feeling well? Like we always, in the United States, we eat chicken soup or something very mild.
Right.
What is there in Indian cuisine that would be for somebody who's not feeling well? If everything is so hot and you're supposed to eat and maybe you don't feel like eating, that wouldn't do well for somebody who's not feeling well. Do they
so
milder kind of recipes?
A lot of dishes, I know that I've been brought up with, we always have a yogurt dish next to it to help with the heat. Or you'll have like a lot of restaurants, I'm sure you tried maybe like a mango lassi, or they have a yogurt lassi. It's like a yogurt drink. Yogurt is really big in Indian cuisine because it settles the stomach and it helps with the balance out the heat and all the other flavors as well. I know I've been brought up where we don't even just eat it. I'll literally like dunk a couple of tablespoons of yogurt in my food, even if it's really spicy. Not only does it help with the heat, but it kind of makes the dishes more creamier.
Yeah.
And just more flavorful in general. But that does help a lot with digestion.
So would they ever not put as much spice in to begin with so that you don't even need the yogurt? Or is is the origin of the spice because maybe there wasn't refrigeration 100 years ago? Is that why food is spicy in a warm climate without refrigeration? Is that what
that's probably part of the reason. I think a lot of it is also just preserving a lot of the ingredients, aside from refrigeration, just preservation of the ingredient as well. For example, you have salt, you'll cure items in salt to preserve it. Spices are very similar in that it helps as well. And also, sometimes the food maybe was just, depending on the region, maybe the food wasn't of like the best quality, not because of, for some reason or other, family. And all of those spices also just add to the flavor of it. So you feel good about what you're eating.
Good. So your business seems to focus on the teaching angle rather than catering or creating your own food brand to sell retail. Well, first of all, why is that? And secondly, are you planning to do those other things too down the road?
Absolutely. So I do a bit of catering right now. for different events as well. A lot of the interest has been more about teaching, it's more about learning. I think people just love being in that environment where with the other people to try new things and do things together. And that has been really, really popular. So that is just the direction that I've been going in as far as people's interest as well. Again, I have done catering as well. And I think it's just, doing something out of the norm, going to work all day, going to school with kids. I think people are just looking to get out of that routine and try something new in a fun, non-intimidating manner as well. And I think that's been really attractive. And I think for me, I love people, and it's been a great opportunity for me to meet people, learn different backgrounds. And, I'm actually learning from other people about the regions that they're from, the type of dishes that they could cook. And I try to incorporate a little bit. So it allows me the opportunity to fuse Indian dishes with like Indian Chinese dishes, Indian Mexican dishes. And I'm learning from each other. It's a give and take. And I love that aspect of it.
Yeah. I mean, I guess that's just a natural offshoot of the fact that travel has become so much cheaper that people
yes
get
I agree.
ethnicities and blend dishes.
Right.
So it seems to be that you're focusing more almost on the experience of the activity of the cooking as opposed to, or in addition to, the actual dish itself.
Absolutely. This is my thing. When you go to a wedding, for example, no matter how glamorous the lamps are, no matter how beautiful the hotel is, at the end of the day, when you get back into your car and you're talking about the wedding, I mean, what's one of the things that you're going to have a conversation about? Oh, the food. Either the food was horrible just to the wedding, or it was a small wedding and they had the freshest ingredients and the most beautiful dishes, beautifully plated. That's my goal in my classes, is to add that experience factor to it. But at the same way, you're enjoying what you're doing, but everything tastes good. So when you leave my class, my goal is to make everything memorable.
Great. So you have a blog right now and are active on social media. How else are you marketing your company? And is there a reason why you don't have a website yet, or have you just not gotten to it yet at this point?
So step by step. Right. I've done the blog, and that's been doing really well. A lot of it is through my classes, word of mouth, social media as well. And then I've been on the radio a couple of times, so that's given me the opportunity to market my business as well.
Great.
And my website, that is definitely going to happen. It's just a matter of transitioning from my blog and then adding all the factors. But that's something I'm definitely leaning towards in the new year, just because there's so many different facets to my business now. I'd like to integrate everything into one site as opposed to having a little bit of piecemeal. So that's a work in progress.
Right. Okay. So it's just where it's sort of evolving as you go. It's not like you started with one. It's not a conscious decision to not have a website.
Right. Absolutely.
Right. And is this something that you do full time, or is this, or as full time as somebody with kids can be doing, or is this more part time?
This is definitely my full time gig. And I do have a family. I have 3 children, so I try to juggle that between my family, but they know, and I think they're on board. When mom needs to get into her office, that's my work time, or I have my my events during the week in the evenings, or classes on the weekends. So this is my full-time thing, and it's a dream come true. I'm really, really thankful for it, to be able to do something you love.
Yeah, no, that's the magic right there, doing what you love.
Yeah, absolutely.
So just getting back to the whole kind of business angle. So
Sure.
When you started, how much, if you could share this with us, how much capital did it take to kind of, go on your own, or to invest just at the outset?
So not much. Nowadays, you have the opportunity to start free blogs. And I think that's a big bonus to anybody wanting to start a company. It's not that expensive to start one. Maintaining it is another thing. And not that it takes a lot of money, but at a certain point, you do need to put finances into it depending on how complex or how detailed or how serious you are about it as well. But, you know, I did my LLC. Obviously, you work with lawyers for that amount of that cost, depending on lawyer fees as well.
Maybe a better question is how much did you budget at the beginning, even if you were only starting off as a blogger, which really is,
Right.
how much did you sort of say, I'll commit X dollars to this business and see how it goes? What was that number for you?
So honestly, it was pretty low.
Okay, no, good.
About maybe $500 to $1,000. That was my goal, and that would be inclusive of incorporating myself, cards, getting myself out there. And that was my goal. And I said, if I don't make it by that amount, obviously I don't think it's meant to be, only because it's food related. So I just felt that I didn't want to put in too much of an investment too quickly. But yeah, it wasn't that much.
So you had more the idea of, if it doesn't succeed within this $1,000, maybe it's not meant to be, as opposed to, I'm going to break down every wall to make this possible, you know, because I want this so badly.
Yeah. So the thing is, with this particular industry with food, it's that I actually started classes in my home initially. So that wasn't that much of, I didn't need to rent a space. Let's put it that way, you know, so that also helped kind of push me along. And I really did, I knew that I wanted to do this, Russ. That was definitely my goal. I knew that this was a long-term thing, but I just wanted to make wiser choices each step of the way and not have to spend too much money too quickly. And that's what I was saying, is I just felt like with everything that was in my goal, if I didn't make it within like $500 to $1,000, then I just felt like I was spending too much to start a business like this. Because, you know, nowadays, I'll go to culinary academies, or I'll go to different, you know, demo areas to do all of my classes. And that doesn't cost that much either, you know? So it's also just trying to figure out what venue to utilize to make your business work as well. Cause you don't need to spend that much money.
So it sounds like you're still kind of on, I guess you kind of have to ongoingly be spending some money, but it's still never really outpacing that 500 to 1,000 at any time. Is that fair to say? Or
yeah. So I think obviously now I think I'm at the point where I've had to spend a little bit more, only because I've been expanding. And like starting it wasn't as difficult as I was expecting it to be. Let's put it that way.
Good. And I'm assuming, because it's a low number, $1,000, I'm assuming you just had that from personal savings. You didn't have to raise money by going to family or going to capital.
Right, and that was the other thing. Is I didn't want to, you know, I kind of wanted to spend according to my means. Like I had my budget, so I knew what I needed to do, but I didn't want to break the bank either too quickly.
Right. So are you, I was going to use the word, are you profitable yet, or are you at least self-sustaining now, where the earnings are funding the growth at this point?
Yes, definitely. And since this has been a full-time opportunity now, and I think people know what I do, opportunities have been consistent now. So it's consistently profitable as well.
So it's consistently profitable, and now it's getting to the point where it's predictable. You can kind of tell what kind of year you're going to have, or at least what kind of quarter you're probably going to have.
Right. So before, you know, when I first started, I would kind of go month by month to see what opportunities I could get. And so for 2019, I know, for example, like I'm already booked out between classes and other media events till April. So now I know I have a range. Okay, I'm going to make this much by April. And then in the midst of all of that, I'll have, for the next few months, I'll book everything out and know how much I'm making. So I've been trying to be as careful as I can with the financial aspect of it, because, you know, as much as you love, at the end of the day, you do have to pay your bills, as does everybody. You still need to make calculated decisions and wise decisions about any business. Sure.
So, so what do you hope that this turns into for you? Because it sounds like you're limited by you know, because you are yourself. You can't be in multiple places. So what is the goal? What is the next step for your business, and what do you hope it turns into for you, and how are you going to get it there?
So, you know, and I've been going step by step. So initially my goal was to start classes in small scale, then to start a blog. Then I said, okay, I want to really do more media, as far as like be on the radio, start my own podcast, which that's going to happen very soon, starting January, February next year. That's my goal. And then ideally, I think, I would love, and I shouldn't say I wish, I know it will happen at the right time, but to be able to have a really good Indian cooking show on network television, aside from a YouTube channel as well, and a successful one. That's my goal. In the past, unfortunately, I've seen them, but I feel like there's a great opportunity to be better and to have something fresh and new for the viewers. And I think at that point, I think for me, that's something really important because I just want to be able to share to whoever's willing to listen and learn my culture, my food, and be able to share just a part of me with everybody as well. And I think that's important as well. Just people see me, what I'm capable of. And I think just in a more sincere, real fashion, more than classes.
What do you think is missing now when you say a more sincere version? You think it's more just...
No, not that I'm not sincere. I love my classes. Don't get me wrong. Like I love being there as well. But I think it's really, it's a class environment as well, which I truly enjoy. But I think it'd be really nice to have something like a show. That's my point, really. Like a Food Network show or a TV show. I'm not only teaching, but I'm kind of like doing my own thing at the same time and showing everybody tips and tricks and things like that. So that aspect, not like I'm trying to be fake.
No. I thought maybe you thought that some of the other ones out there were...
No. There's great ones. It's just I've seen in the past, they've had great Indian cooking shows. That just unfortunately for some reason or other didn't work out. And I'd love to have something more consistent. That's all. Just something that's going to stay long term. Because people are truly into it and it's exciting. It's not only about cooking, but it's about entertainment as well. People see something that they can sit down, enjoy with their families or themselves and have fun while they're learning something new.
Cool. So you said you've done more radio, I guess you've done a few radio interviews at this point.
Yeah, and I've hosted a couple shows as well, all food related shows as well. So that's been a great experience about, kind of how to project myself, how to talk, present myself to people. So I've been trying to take everything as a learning experience so that when I do go down that path where I have my own show, I'm not, jumping in without knowing what to do.
So have you been able to take steps to try to repeat that more often as opposed to just, let's step back. How did that first one happen and is it duplicatable? How did you get your first interview on radio or how did you get...
I literally I was invited to a media event for a restaurant and I met the gentleman who did the food show, the food podcast. And so I thought, hey, this would be a great opportunity for me to be able to talk about Indian food. So I guess it was one of those shameless self-promotion opportunities where,
why not?
Hey, would you like to have me on radio? And after I said it, I was like, Chetna, I don't know if I should have really said that. But thankfully, he was like, oh, yeah. Hey, Chetna, let's have you on. And I said, okay, let's do it. So, my first time, I was really nervous. I had I felt like I almost did like a research report on myself. So I wouldn't sound so foolish on the phone. But, I got on there. I talked about what I did. And it was about earlier last year, small scale what I did, and a lot of people loved it. Were interested in it, and then I got contacts from there, and then I had the opportunity to host my own radio show for bringing other Indian restaurateurs and chefs and other people on. So that was really cool too, be able to bring them on and learn from them and talk to them.
How did that come about that you were able to become a host? That doesn't just happen overnight.
So they actually asked me, they said they really they liked the way that the show went for that particular, not only because of me, but just the way that all the guests were just really interesting and everybody was interactive and they were happy with it. And they asked me, would you like an opportunity? Because, I told them the path that I want to go on. And so the producer had contacted me and said, well, this would be a great opportunity for to get your name out. Would you want to try it as a host? And I said, okay, let's try it, and I had also in the middle of all of that, Russ, I'd actually asked them if I could come to any of their previous older radio shows just to kind of shadow them,
right?
Sit in the corner and kind of just figure out, okay, for timing and how to talk. So that also helped as well. And then they let me host a couple shows and then it's been great. It's been
wow.
Yeah.
That's cool. So what have you found yourself struggling with in the past, and how did you overcome that hurdle? And then what might you be struggling with currently?
So in the past, I've always wanted to do this business for a long time. And
What world did you come from before this?
I, long time ago, was a network engineer. And I used to travel for work. And then my husband and I, we decided to start a family, but our job was 100% travel. And so both of us can't travel for work when you're trying to raise a family. And so, at that point, I guess I had thought I left a really great job. So it was bittersweet. I loved my job. I loved the travel. I loved the people. But yeah, it was just family was important, and my kids needed me at the time. And I'd always wanted to do this, but I kind of just, I don't know if it was also a self-esteem thing, like, oh, I don't think I'm good enough. And I see everybody on TV and they seem so upbeat and happy and they kind of have their stuff together. And I don't, I'm running around in diapers with kids and stuff like that. I just don't have time. And then finally, and I think, and that in the midst of all of that, my mom was also sick as well with cancer. So I was taking care of her the last few years, helping out. And then I started thinking to myself, and I don't want to be in the position where I look at myself years later and say, I could have done that. I wanted to do that, but I didn't, and I think that kind of changed my perspective to work through my fears, to be more confident and say, hey, my family enjoys my cooking. I'm proud of what I have to offer, and I'm going to try it. And I think that's the key, is just trying it. And then I think also once I started not worrying about what people thought about me, I think that also opened up the doors where I wasn't worried about, oh yeah, her cooking is not as great as this person. It's like, I'm putting my best foot forward, and if you enjoy it, by all means talk about it. And if you don't enjoy it, let me know so that I can improve on it. Everybody has to be teachable. Nobody's a pro. Even the best chef in the world they started from somewhere. And I think once you realize that if you have a passion for something and you really love something, just try it. That's the key. It may not work, but you know what? At the end of the day, you're going to look back and say, I tried it and I'm happy about it. I did my best. And it may work, it may not, and you just count your blessings. That's how I think.
Yeah, I always think if I like something, it's a big world out there. There's probably a lot of other people who like it too. So I'm not that different from everyone else. So if you think something's good, it probably is to enough people that could make you successful.
Right. I agree. And
so
I think
is that kind of your ongoing struggle? Is to I don't know if you want to call it self-esteem, or just that question in the back of your mind as to whether or not things are good enough or not good enough?
Yeah. And I'll be honest, it absolutely is. There's a lot of people on social media that post everything. Their life is perfect. Their food is, top of the line and this and that. And they just have the ideal image. And I know and I don't know if it's just that you don't intend for it to bother you. But when you're flipping through Instagram, and I think we're all guilty of it, or your Facebook, you see everybody have the perfect social media life. And after a while, you do start feeling like, oh, maybe I'm not doing enough, or oh man, I have 3 little kids. If my kids had more babysitting opportunities, maybe I'd be able to do this more. Or if I had more time, I'd do this more. And I think just every day is a learning lesson that, hey, this is the path I've been put in. You just put your best foot forward and you do your best and you be thankful for that, because there's a lot of people who are just not, who would love to be in my position that just don't have that opportunity. So, you know what? I have it. Just, kick butt.
Yeah. It's funny how, everyone has this illusion that they have to be perfect or as close to it as possible. And yet you look at somebody like an Oprah Winfrey, where her show didn't take off until she started being honest about her weight problems and things that have happened to her in the past, and people felt that she was relatable. And that's what you're seeing too, I think, a lot on YouTube videos and things like that, where people will show you how to do a certain thing, either how to fix your car or whatever, and they'll show you them screwing up certain things too, and saying, be careful not to let this happen because it can. And I think people like to see the flaws.
And you know what? I think it just makes people feel like life's not that bad after all, that we're all in this together after all, you know, and on my posts, I post pictures of burned dishes and I'll say, hey, I was caught up taking a selfie and I burned a pot of onions or something. There's smoke in the background and I take pictures and I post them and it's okay if people don't like it and it's okay if people do like it, you know, but this is me and put all my cards on the table, you know, like me or don't like me and that's fine.
Well, that's just it. I mean, I think people think it's only them. And if they see, oh, you're the person that they're following and it happens to you too, well, then I must not be so bad either.
Right. Yeah.
Good. So in forming your business, what would you say, like what, you know, in finding some of these struggles, what would you say is the type of help that you needed, you know, either when you're starting out or even now, that you're just having trouble finding or that's just not out there or you still haven't found it even yet?
As far as what help I currently need, is that what you mean?
Yeah, or even getting started, were there things that you were just kind of lost at and felt like you had to figure out yourself that you wish was available to you or that you wished you knew how to do better and that you just didn't really know how to solve it?
So at the beginning, I think a lot of it was just, so once I decided to, you know, take the classes out of my home and find a proper location or having people give me an opportunity, especially because I was so young at that point in the business. I think just initially was just getting people to take me seriously. Like this is not just, you know, like a part-time thing that, oh, you know, I just want to make a couple bucks on the side.
Right.
And kind of breaking through that mold that, you know, I didn't go to a culinary institute. I've been cooking 20 plus years. You know, I went to the School of Mom. That was a culinary academy of Mom. And having people still value that as important. Initially, with a lot of the chefs, I think I had to deal with that is just, hey, I still know my stuff. You know, I didn't go to culinary academy, but I can cook just as well as you. And hey, all right, you know what? Let's cook together so that you know. I think that was my struggle, was just kind of getting my foot in the door initially, and then now it's just staying consistent and having people just continue to realize, hey, I've worked with this chef, okay, or I've done work with this individual or this particular event, and I've done this type of work. All right, so she does have experience under her belt, that she's not a newbie, even though I've only started, you know, 2-3 years ago.
So it sounds like it was like a credibility issue for you, or
Yeah.
a perceived credibility issue?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
I think that goes across the board with probably any individual starting a new business, is kind of getting your foot in the door and having people, you know, understand what you're doing and give you kind of an opportunity to try it.
Is there an actual, I know there are culinary schools, but I don't know if the word chef is just kind of thrown around indiscriminately, or do you have to have a degree to be called chef, or is it an amorphous term like professor? You know, anyone could be called professor.
Right.
It's not necessarily doctor. It's not a real term, I don't think. You know, anyone who teaches can be called a professor, I think. Is that the same for chef, or could you have used the word chef at the beginning to establish credibility, or would that be false advertising?
You know, for me personally, I just didn't give that title to myself until probably beginning of this year. I just felt I wanted people, and I called myself the home cook initially, you know, and a cooking instructor at my home initially. And I just wanted to get more opportunities under my belt before I could say, okay, I am at this point a chef, a professional chef as well. So that was just a personal thing. I think, you know, people can call themselves whatever they want to call themselves at the end of the day, whatever makes them feel good. For me, I just felt like when I use that word chef in any of my classes or any of the events I did, I wanted people to know that, you know, I actually have done stuff as well. Like I actually have cooked in a class environment, in a professional environment. So yeah, you know what, she does have that experience.
Okay. So have you ever considered like have you ever used a consultant or considered using a consultant to help either overcome some of these obstacles or help to expand your business?
I have thought about it, but I guess I just, you know, what I do is just, it's really like a one-man job at this point. because of my teaching aspect of it. I think eventually when I would like to maybe get more, maybe have more catering opportunities and maybe focus a little bit more on the catering side as well. I think at that point I would bring people on only because of the number of events or the number of people involved in an event. I would definitely bring somebody on. But since I'm just focusing on the class aspect at this point for this year and maybe early next year, I'm kind of trying to figure out what would be the best game plan if I did bring somebody on, what benefit it would be to them compared to the business as well. So I think a lot of it is just trying to figure out next steps, outline next level goals.
Right, and that was going to be my next question: is what you define as the next level? I mean, you talked about trying to get more into a show or radio or things like that,
right.
Media.
Right.
As far as the business itself, is there anything more to that plan, or is the business itself basically going to be teaching like you are now, but just teaching on a TV show or teaching on a radio show?
So, the thing with what I do teach. So I do media events as well, which means, sometimes new restaurants will open up or they just need help with marketing any of their new products or stuff. So they'll bring in all of us food writers to come in, since I have the blog, to review their restaurant or some of their products. And then I'll write all of those details as well. So that's definitely something I'd like to continue on. And I do, from a fun aspect, I do food photography with myself and also other photographers. And that's more to shed light to the beauty behind ingredients, and I'll do like silly shots. I did, if you've seen like the X-Men Wolverine, I did one where I was holding asparagus. Like X-Men, and I had like a Kiss shirt on, like a heavy metal shirt on, and fun stuff like that, to bring the asparagus front and center, and then I'll write about it, what you can do with the asparagus and the health benefits of it, for example, to get that ingredient out there so people know what it's about, but in a fun, candid way as well. So that's been a lot. I did a photo shoot, a glamour photo shoot, holding a cauliflower instead of a bouquet of flowers, and then I'll talk about that. Hey, these are the recipes you can use for cauliflower, and these are the health benefits, or these are ways that you could incorporate it into your daily meals as well, and then offer it like that. So that's definitely something I want to keep, because that's all out of the box kind of opportunity.
That's very cool. So I was going to ask you about your photography too. So yeah, since I guess some of our members who may be watching this or who may be watching this in the future, just for anyone watching, today is November 28th, 2018. So if you're watching this in the future, just understand the date that we're talking. You do photography for hire as well, right? Someone could enlist your help for that purpose?
Yes, absolutely.
And so how do you charge? Is it by the project, or is it by the number of photos, or how would you charge?
It depends on there's a lot of factors, but it depends on the project, the complexity of the project, what they're looking for. And then also, if they just want a specific, like one ingredient, how do you want it? You want it in multiple shots, in multiple areas. So there's a lot of, it really would be a conversation with the client to see what their needs are as well. So it's project-based, let's put it that way.
Can you give a ballpark, just so people will say whether it's worth talking to you, or do you charge a fortune for it or not so much? Just to give an idea, like what would be what price and what would be another price, just so they know whether it makes sense for them to even call you. So that way you can maybe use this as somewhat of a commercial for yourself.
To be honest, I don't really have an exact dollar amount right now. Only because, again, like I said, it's project-based. I've done small ones compared to big ones as well. So it's been a different range. And then also the other thing is I do work with other photographers as well for the food photography. So when I collaborate with them to do stuff, I have to take into account whatever their fees are as well. So that's a conversation I'd have with the client. If I have a ballpark number, by all means, I'd give it to you as well.
Okay, no problem. That's fair enough.
Yeah.
And do you have a specialty with regard to the photography? Like do you only do more Indian food shots, or do you not care? You'll shoot anything?
I'll do it all. I'll do it as long as it's food related and it's an ingredient that's important to the person. Then let's do it. And I've done crazy ones where I've thrown oranges into the air while I'm jumping into a pool. So whatever the person wants, we'll make it happen to the best of our ability.
Excellent.
It can't be like, a family portrait. We got to do crazy stuff.
Yeah, no swimsuit pictures, right? So, do customers need to be near you to work with you as their photographer, or can they mail you stuff and you'll photograph it and send the files back to them?
Yes, I can do that.
The latter, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah. It would be nice if they were close by, only because at that point you have that FaceTime with them. But you know what, with technology nowadays, we can always video chat, get their ideas, and I'll, brainstorm with them, and we'll come up with a good plan.
Okay.
What they do.
And you're located where now?
In South Jersey, in the Monroeville, Elk Township, New Jersey area.
Okay. So
about like half an hour out of Philly.
Okay. And then what are some of the other revenue generating aspects of your business besides the classes and the photography, if you have them? I don't know if you've developed any others at this point.
Mm-hmm. So those are my two main revenue building areas. And food photography, obviously, from time to time. The rest, I have to say, is kind of just with the media events. At least in my experience, they haven't really paid in a monetary way. They'll give you, meals and other perks and benefits from the restaurant. So that's what I try to be fair and kind of work it out with them. Sometimes it obviously, it is important to get the money, but sometimes it's also just building that relationship with the clients for the next opportunity as well. So I pick and choose my battle, so to speak.
What would you say are some of the biggest mistakes you've made so far, and how did they happen? Sometimes I just was a little bit too aggressive. Maybe I just didn't allow the individual to really understand my business, and I kind of was like, let me do it, just let me try, just get me in there. And they're like, what are you doing, and so I just had to learn how to deal with each person's personalities. Some people are more than willing to give you a chance or to kind of let you work with them and collaborate. Other people, you'll contact them once or twice, and then you just know at that point it's better to move on to another opportunity as well. So I think maybe just learning people's personalities and learning when to be aggressive and how much as well, because you don't want to be like one of those annoying sales people that constantly is tapping you on the shoulder. Can I help you? Can I help you? You're just like, look at the TV, dude. Like, just leave me alone. So finding that healthy balance is always a work in progress. Yeah, that's true. What would you say have been your biggest accomplishments so far? We'll get away from the negative. Let's focus on the positive. Okay.
Sure. Well, talking to you, there you go. So that's
what could be better.
And I know it sounds really childish, but when I first got an opportunity to be interviewed on the radio, I kind of felt like, you know what, I think this is a stepping stone to greater things. And I won a food competition as well. And it was really funny because it was at a university. It was for a hot sauce challenge. And they wanted a group of people to come in and use the president of the university has a special hot sauce. And he wanted everybody to use a special ingredient in whatever dish you had chose. And so I honestly am one of those people, like, everybody around me wins things. I never win. Keep raising my head. And so I made a butter chicken. It was called fiery butter chicken. And I used this guy's hot sauce in there. And, you don't use Tabasco in Indian cooking. It just is like a shame. It's like blasphemous.
Something
so somehow in the midst of it, it worked. Enough sugar, enough chili. We made it happen. I taste tested it like 10 times. And then we presented it. And then I got second place. But when they called my name, I was like, they're like, oh, hey, Chetna Macwan, please come up. And I was like, oh, yeah, go Chetna. I was like, wait a second, that's me. So I walked up and I literally was like a little kid. I was like raising my hand, like, thank you guys, thank you guys. And even my husband was like, I cannot believe this woman. Like, but at
You
that
never
point,
won anything before then?
what's that?
Is that the first time you've ever won anything?
From a culinary aspect, yeah. From a hot sauce. And then I went on, I did another food challenge with another restaurant as well, for food as well. So that was another second place win. So I was proud of that as well. And the thing is, like, we had to let the restaurant win first place because I was competing against the restaurant, so it doesn't look good if a blogger won in. But it was fun. It was all fun and good thing. But yeah, so I think once I won, I think that also just helped boost my morale that, hey, I can do this. I can do this. All right, so let's try something else. Let's try making this dish a different way for class or for my neighbors and have them taste tested, or other people, you know, when I do recipe testing as well. It's just a stepping stone. Little successes make bigger successes. That's how I feel.
Great. Yeah, I mean, just to back up, and the reason I keep asking you about things like successes and failures or struggles,
Yeah,
things that
right.
you overcome, it's a couple of reasons. One is because we at Eatisserie want to know what people are struggling with, so we can write articles and do more stories about things that might help people.
Yeah.
But the other is that at some point, hopefully in the very near future, we're going to have something called the Eatisserie Network, which is going to allow people with different backgrounds just to join, almost like a Facebook page, but you'll be able to see each person's expertise. So
Okay.
somebody can answer your question and they're in the group, you can contact them directly and get the answer. Or if they know that you're struggling with something and they have the expertise, they can reach out to you. So we're hoping to just kind of get people's frustrations out in the open as opposed to being a dirty little secret, so that the more people know that they can help them, they probably will.
No, and I think that's a great thing. And you know what, with any industry, it just having that support is just key. You know, my success may be your weakness, your success is my weakness. And no matter how, I just feel like no matter how, where you go in life, how successful you are, you always have to remain teachable.
Exactly.
As long as you maintain that ability to be teachable and, you know, not have a chip on your shoulder, because, you know, granted, yes, I do food, but food is food is food, you know, at the end of the day, it's about food. And that person might be a better chef than me, but I might be better in a certain area as well. So instead of having that mentality that, oh, I am better than you, no matter how you look at it, it's okay. Hey, I'm going to teach you what I'm able to do, and you teach me what you're able to do. And guess what? We grow together. That's what life's about in general. Growing together, learning about each other and sharing, you know. Recipes, for example, in my opinion, are meant for sharing, not hoarding.
That's right. I don't know anyone who's actually followed a recipe exactly anyway, just because they would not have simply had something in the house that was needed in that recipe. So suddenly it's a new recipe anyway.
Yeah, yeah. And I've had people like, you know, I've enjoyed somebody's recipe and I asked them, well, would you be willing to share it? And they're like, no. And I was like, are you serious? It's okay. You know, I expect that, but like, why?
Their self-worth is tied up in that recipe.
I guess it's like that extra pinch of cinnamon, Russ, you know, what I would put. It's a make or break deal.
I mean, everyone's style is different anyway. You and
I
that same recipe.
But that's what makes the world go on. That's why people love to eat out, right? You go to 5 different Mexican restaurants. Every place is going to make guacamole differently.
It's true. It's true. Even following the same recipe, everyone's got a lighter touch or a heavier touch, and
exactly. So why not just cook together? That's how I feel. You know.
Exactly.
Let's just all be friends.
I mean, why should there be enemies? I mean, the whole idea is, you know, people say we'll break bread together. As you know, when people are enemies, they try to break bread to bring them together. So it's a unifying force. So why should there be enemies among chefs?
Absolutely. And it's funny because I have met, you know, and I understand like everybody has their own niche and I get it. And I respect that. But sometimes you just like, in a loving way, you just want to be like, dude, chill out, you know?
Exactly.
But some people just, you know what, maybe it's just, they're just overly competitive. I don't know. I mean, everybody's different, but yeah, let's just work together. That's how I feel, especially in this industry as well. Exactly. We're all, it's a service related industry. So our whole point is to make the the client or the customer happy. So why not do it together? That's all. That's how I just feel.
And the more two creative people collaborate, the more good ideas are going to come out of it. If you have a monopoly on all your good ideas, then that means that you're missing out on something else that might be being developed right now that you're.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's funny, just out of fun though, I made, you've ever had Scrapple? So.
I never have. I know what it is, but I've never had it.
Well, apparently it's like the worst thing in life from what I hear, but I was curious. So I did a Scrapple empanada and a Scrapple samosa. So
that's blasphemy.
It turned out good. I was surprised. It actually turned out decent, but granted, I won't be making a plate of that tonight for dinner, but it was fun to try.
It's fun once.
Yeah. I gave them all out. We're like, all right, that's fun.
I don't blame you. So what would you say, this is my last question, is what would you say is the best piece of business advice you've ever received? And what advice, it's actually two-part, what advice would you give to a new entrepreneur to help her along the way?
The best advice I've received is to stop thinking about it and do it.
Nike.
Yeah. Some people have an awesome game plan. They have everything written on a piece of paper, the most detailed outline ever, but they never implement it. And I just feel like, what joy is it? What joy do you have reading about it as opposed to doing it or trying it? That's how I feel. And the second thing I have to say, and this is just, and all this stuff is just things I've learned, along the way, and people have told me as well. It's just, when you, like I said earlier to you, Russ, like when you stop worrying about when people think about you, success begins. I think a lot of people worry about, are they going to like me? Are they going to, give me a chance? Are they going to this? Are they going to that? When you stop worrying about what the next person is going to think about what you're doing, and you just try it, and that's the key. Just try it. I think you'll realize that there's a lot more opportunities that open up than you would have expected as well. And guess what? That person you think would have criticized you would probably be the person who wished that they were in your shoes.
That's great. That's great advice, because a lot of people just never think their plan is ready to go.
Right.
It's planning and planning and planning.
Mm-hmm.
That's great advice. So if our audience wants to learn more about you, how can they reach out to you? How can they find you?
Sure. So they can go to my blog. It's called spicecultureblog.wordpress.com. They can read
that again, just because it's long.
Oh yeah, sure. So I'll just write, it's www.spicecultureblog.wordpress.com.
Great.
They can also reach me on Instagram on CM Spice Culture. And they can reach me on Twitter, the same name, CM Spice Culture. And also on Facebook, I'm under Spice Culture Cooking as well. And they can reach me anytime. All my information is there for classes, for videos that I think are cool about different recipes, or even if they just want to talk about recipes. And, some of my food photography is on there as well, so they can get an idea how crazy this person really is. Yeah. And, I would love for people to contact me, because I just, like I said, I feed off of that. And I think it's such a beautiful thing to be able to meet people and learn, and get to know people. That's the thing. Tell me what you know, and I'll tell you what I know.
Collaborate again. Yep. Well, excellent. Well, thank you, Chetna. This has been great getting to know you, and I appreciate your time today. And I'm sure a lot of members of our audience have gotten a lot out of today's session.
Awesome. Thank you for your time. I look forward to hearing from you. Take care.